What if everything you know about ancient history is wrong? Deep in the mountains of Peru sits a mystery that's driving modern engineers insane. Stones cut with laser precision, joints tighter than surgical scalpels, blocks weighing 200 tons lifted to impossible heights, all done by a civilization that supposedly used copper tools and llamas. The math doesn't work, the physics don't work, the timeline doesn't work. But the stones are real. They're standing, and they're laughing at every explanation we throw at them. The Inca didn't build Machu Picchu's foundations. They said so themselves. Ancient builders came before us, they told the Spanish, after the waters receded. What waters? What builders? And why are satellite scans now revealing that what we see above ground might just be the tip of something massive hidden beneath? This isn't just about stones. This is about rewriting human history. And it starts right here. Let's start with the foundation of the mystery, the stone itself. Machu Picchu wasn't constructed from soft limestone or sandstone that can be shaped with basic tools. Its walls are built from granite and andesite, materials so incredibly hard they rank just below diamonds on geological hardness scales. Yet the ancient builders somehow sculpted these stones into complex curves, perfect angles, and interlocking joints that appear almost molded rather than carved. Here's where things get problematic for conventional explanations. The Inca civilization only possessed bronze and copper implements. When you strike granite with bronze tools, logic dictates those tools should shatter on impact. Yet here stand these magnificent walls, precisely cut, perfectly fitted, and assembled with an accuracy that leaves modern engineers scratching their heads. Research teams have traced the origin quarries located miles away from the construction site, mapped the seemingly impossible transportation routes, and attempted to recreate these feats using modern cranes and diamond-tipped cutting equipment. Their conclusion? Moving 100-ton stone blocks across treacherous mountain terrain without wheels or steel equipment isn't merely challenging, it approaches the realm of impossibility. But Machu Picchu didn't just rise against all odds, it has endured against them. The entire complex sits directly atop an active seismic fault line where regular earthquakes should have reduced it to scattered rubble long ago. Instead, its walls demonstrate an almost living quality. They flex during tremors, shift with the Earth's movement, and then resettle perfectly back into place. This isn't accidental survival or mere luck. This represents intentional seismic engineering of the highest order, displaying a level of geological foresight that forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. Exactly who possessed this knowledge and how advanced was their understanding? But Machu Picchu represents only the tip of this archaeological iceberg. Throughout the Andes Mountains, evidence of the same impossible expertise appears repeatedly. At Pisac, agricultural terraces sweep down mountainsides in precise geometric arcs that seem calculated for astronomical observation. At Tipon, water channels carved directly into solid rock continue to function with flawless efficiency after centuries of use. And at Moray, mysterious concentric rings descend into the earth like a sunken amphitheater, leading researchers to theorize it functioned as an experimental facility where ancient scientists tested crops, climate conditions, or perhaps even acoustic properties. These sites weren't randomly scattered across the landscape. They all connect to and point toward one magnificent centerpiece, Machu Picchu. Positioned nearly 8,000 feet above sea level, its design seamlessly integrates mountain and sky into a unified architectural masterpiece. The sheer scale, the mathematical precision, the way it harmonizes with the natural landscape, none of it aligns with our understanding of a supposedly primitive culture. Instead, it suggests knowledge systems far more advanced than the historical timeline permits. The construction methods only deepen the enigma. The builders didn't simply stack stone blocks in conventional patterns. They sculpted them into three-dimensional puzzle pieces with individual stones interlocking with 10 or more neighbors through complex angular connections. This technique, known as polygonal masonry, appears nowhere else on Earth except in the Andes, and proves virtually impossible to replicate even with today's computer-controlled machinery. Modern construction engineers openly admit that fitting stones in this manner, at this scale, would present a logistical and financial nightmare. One of the most striking examples can be found in Cusco's famous 12-angle stone. Its edges are cut so cleanly and its joints fit so precisely that it appears less like carved granite and more like molded clay. This has led some researchers to propose that the builders discovered a lost technique for softening stone before shaping. Theories range from intense heat application to sound wave manipulation to even plant-based compounds mentioned in Andean folklore. The explorer Percy Fawcett documented stories of an Amazonian plant that could allegedly dissolve rock, and whispers of similar techniques persist in local traditions to this day. Whether the stones were softened, cut, or shaped through some forgotten methodology, the results speak for themselves. Stonework so technically advanced, it borders on impossibility. Standing within Machu Picchu's walls, surrounded by construction that seems to mock the passage of time, one question becomes unavoidable. Did the Inca civilization truly accomplish this engineering marvel independently? Or were they inheriting and building upon knowledge from a civilization that history has forgotten? The mystery deepens when we examine sites beyond Machu Picchu. At Ollantaytambo, stone surfaces display precise notches and drill-like perforations that appear more machine-manufactured than hand-carved. At Sacsayhuaman, massive boulders show smooth, scooped-out depressions, as if carved by tools the size of a human torso. These markings are symmetrical, uniform, and bear no resemblance to the crude impact patterns expected from bronze implements. They suggest construction techniques we no longer recognize or understand. Machu Picchu itself conceals another layer of sophisticated engineering. The site functioned not merely as a fortress, it operated as an integrated mechanical system. Beneath its stones runs an intricate network of water channels that continue to function flawlessly today, supplying fountains and managing drainage with mathematical precision. The terraces ascending the mountainside weren't designed purely for aesthetic appeal. They were engineered to stabilize the ridge, absorb rainfall, and prevent catastrophic landslides. Modern infrastructure engineers acknowledge this openly. What we're observing is advanced civil engineering, not decorative architecture. But here's perhaps the most unsettling revelation. The Inca never claimed credit for building these foundations. When Spanish conquistadors first encountered these massive walls and temples, they demanded to know who had constructed them. The Inca response was direct and unwavering. They existed before us. The masonry itself confirms this testimony. At site after site, distinctively Inca-style walls sit directly on top of much older foundations. Blocks that are larger, harder, and cut with precision the Inca never managed to duplicate. This architectural layering serves as silent evidence. The Inca were inheritors and adapters, not the original architects. Scientific analysis only compounds the mystery. While stones themselves cannot be carbon dated, organic materials, charcoal, bone fragments, and wood, trapped within the oldest construction layers, reveal dates stretching back thousands of years before the Inca Empire existed. Geological surveys trace granite blocks to distant quarries, somehow transported through ravines and across rivers without roads or wheeled vehicles. Under microscopic examination, some stone surfaces appear polished to glass-like smoothness, while others display grooves remarkably similar to high-speed machining marks. A peer-reviewed study published in 2022 stated it plainly: traditional stone chiseling cannot account for these surface characteristics. Advanced technology is now revealing what human observation alone could never detect. Satellite imaging and LiDAR scanning systems have uncovered vast networks of terraces, tunnels, and chambers hidden throughout the sacred valley. At Sacsayhuaman, LiDAR revealed extensive void spaces beneath the fortress walls. At Machu Picchu, scans suggest the visible city may represent only a fraction of the total complex, with the remainder buried deep within the mountain itself. And then comes the most breathtaking discovery of all: the astronomical alignments. Machu Picchu, like the Coricancha Temple in Cusco, demonstrates stunning precision in its alignment with solstices and equinoxes, not approximate positioning, but accuracy measured in fractions of degrees. Its corridors channel sunlight with perfect timing, as though the entire citadel was designed to function as a massive cosmic timepiece. This same level of astronomical precision echoes in Egypt's pyramids, England's Stonehenge, and ancient temple complexes worldwide. In 2024, a gathering of archaeologists, geologists, and engineers in Lima finally acknowledged what many had whispered privately for decades. These weren't fringe theorists or sensationalist researchers, they were mainstream academic experts. Together they admitted something remarkable. There exist massive gaps in our understanding of these ancient structures. The question has evolved beyond whether Machu Picchu conceals secrets. The question now is, how much longer can mainstream archaeology deny the evidence? Because if our timeline is incorrect, if the available tools were insufficient, and if even the Inca themselves acknowledged they didn't build these megalithic foundations, then who did? Machu Picchu may not simply represent the crowning achievement of the Inca Empire. It may preserve the architectural footprint of something far more ancient, a civilization lost to history, leaving behind only fragments of impossible genius. Traditional archaeology has long promoted a linear narrative, that human civilization progresses steadily from primitive beginnings to advanced achievements. But Peru's ancient stones tell a different story entirely. They suggest knowledge that emerged, flourished, and then vanished, technical capabilities centuries ahead of their supposed time, now barely comprehensible to modern science. Contemporary researchers call this phenomenon technological amnesia, the complete disappearance of entire fields of knowledge following catastrophic events. In 2023, Oxford University researchers specifically cited Peru's megalithic structures as prime examples of this mysterious pattern. And Peru is not unique in this regard. From Lebanon's Baalbek to Turkey's Göbekli Tepe to Egypt's pyramid complex, the same enigmatic signature appears. Stones too massive to move, cuts too perfect to explain, alignments too precise for coincidence. Cultures separated by vast oceans and thousands of years somehow left behind identical riddles, as if they were all accessing fragments of the same lost global science. The Inca themselves spoke of Viracocha, a tall, bearded figure who appeared after a great deluge, possessing knowledge no ordinary human could master. Across the Atlantic, Greeks told of lost Atlantis. Sumerians recounted the Epic of Gilgamesh. Different civilizations, different mythologies, but the same haunting theme, a golden age of knowledge shattered by catastrophe, survivors who carried fragments of impossible wisdom into an uncertain future. What survives global catastrophe? Not papyrus scrolls, not wooden structures, not human memory. Only stone endures. If disaster struck the ancient Andes, perhaps Machu Picchu represents not a royal citadel, but humanity's last repository, an ark of knowledge disguised as architecture, waiting for a future generation wise enough to decode its secrets. This brings us to one of the strangest clues of all, acoustics. Throughout Machu Picchu, sounds behave in extraordinary ways. Claps and voices echo back with unnatural clarity, as though the walls themselves were precisely tuned for acoustic enhancement. Similar sound hotspots appear throughout the Andes, plazas where whispers carry impossible distances, staircases where echoes return in perfect mathematical rhythms. Scientists now question whether this acoustic behavior was intentional. Could sound waves themselves have served as construction tools? Modern laboratory research has demonstrated that specific vibrations can move matter and fracture stone. Ancient legends from Egypt to Tibet describe tones capable of lifting stones or shattering mountains. If sound could shape stone, another force may have worked in harmony with it, terrestrial magnetism. At several Andean sites, instruments detect subtle but consistent magnetic anomalies flowing through the stonework, almost as if the blocks were deliberately magnetized, aligned, or tuned to Earth's magnetic field. Was this a geological accident, or did the ancient builders understand how to harness natural magnetism? Some researchers theorize it could have stabilized massive structures, distributed their weight, or even reduced the enormous effort required to lift megalithic stones. The science remains in its infancy, but the patterns are undeniable, waiting for someone to decipher their meaning. What makes this revelation so profound is that it requires no aliens, no fantasy technology, no science fiction machines. It demands something far more challenging to accept: the possibility that human history extends deeper, reaches further back, and contains far stranger chapters than our current academic timeline allows. Advanced knowledge doesn't always leave behind steel skyscrapers or silicon microchips. Sometimes it leaves only stone, carved, aligned, and half erased by time, dismissed because it doesn't conform to established historical narratives. This raises the most difficult question of all. If such sophisticated knowledge once existed, why did it disappear? How does a civilization capable of engineering precision that rivals modern technology simply vanish from the historical record? The Andes themselves may provide the answer. This is a landscape born in volcanic fire and constantly reshaped by geological upheaval. Earthquakes, eruptions, floods, and landslides scar these mountains with every passing century. Civilizations here rise and fall in endless cycles of creation and destruction. Geological records reveal that approximately 11,000 to 12,000 years ago, during the cataclysmic period known as the Younger Dryas, our planet experienced unprecedented chaos. Continental ice sheets collapsed, ocean levels surged, and weather patterns shifted into violent extremes. Throughout South America, sediment layers preserve evidence of catastrophic floods that engulfed entire valleys. If an advanced culture once flourished here, it may not have declined gradually. It may have been obliterated in a matter of days. But natural catastrophe wasn't the only force of historical erasure. If a sophisticated civilization predated the Inca, then virtually everything except stone has long since vanished. Wood decomposed, textiles dissolved, entire cities were consumed by time and jungle. What nature didn't claim, human conquest completed. When Spanish conquistadors invaded Peru in the 1500s, they didn't merely conquer the Inca Empire, they declared war on memory itself. Sacred temples were burned, religious practices outlawed, and oral histories silenced. Where ancient sanctuaries once stood, Christian churches rose directly on the same megalithic foundations. The most sacred site of all, Coricancha, the Temple of the Sun, was gutted and transformed, rebuilt as the Church of Santo Domingo. The conquistadors weren't simply dismantling Inca civilization, they were severing humanity's connection to something far more ancient. Spanish records note that the Inca themselves insisted they hadn't constructed the massive stone foundations beneath their temples, but the conquistadors dismissed these claims as primitive superstition. With that dismissal, the trail leading into humanity's deeper past was severed. Memory, once broken, proves remarkably fragile. Without written language, ancient knowledge survived only through rituals, priesthoods, and oral traditions. Such knowledge can disappear within a single generation, erased by warfare, disease, or foreign domination. This explains why Inca builders often appear to be copying, rather than creating, constructing smaller, less precise walls atop older blocks the size of modern trucks. The contrast remains visible today. The foundational stones speak of origins far beyond the Inca's reach. For centuries, this contrast sat unexamined. But in recent decades, revolutionary technology has begun to strip away the accumulated fog of conquest and time. What these new tools reveal has astonished even the most skeptical scholars. The breakthrough came with LIDAR, light detection and ranging technology. Originally developed for military applications, LIDAR fires millions of laser pulses across landscapes, digitally removing jungle canopy and mountainous terrain as if erasing Earth's surface layers. In 2022, research teams scanned the Sacred Valley with LIDAR, and the results defied all expectations. Beneath the visible ruins lay concealed terraces, massive wall systems, and vast geometric layouts extending for miles. Some aligned perfectly with Machu Picchu's orientation. Others had no known equivalent, no place in accepted chronologies. They weren't natural formations. They weren't random constructions. They represented the architectural signature of an unknown civilization, one older, more mysterious, and more technically advanced than anything mainstream history acknowledges. As the scanning penetrated deeper, discoveries became increasingly extraordinary. Near Moray, LiDAR revealed a design long dismissed as simple agricultural terracing, concentric rings descending into the earth like a stone amphitheater. But comprehensive soil and geological analysis shattered that assumption. These depressions weren't ordinary gardens. They functioned as an engineered laboratory. Temperature variations of several degrees existed between upper and lower ring levels. Water flow and acoustic properties followed measurable, deliberate patterns. What once appeared to be farming infrastructure now suggests controlled scientific experimentation, an ancient research facility for studying climate, acoustics, and solar positioning. At Ollantaytambo, three-dimensional scanning uncovered something even more puzzling. Carved grooves and notches, previously considered random decorations, mapped into sweeping curves with mechanical precision, symmetries that mirror the signatures of modern machine tooling. Some wall sections are so perfectly interlocked that when temperatures fluctuate, the massive blocks expand and contract as a unified body of stone. This represents engineering foresight that modern construction rarely achieves. Then came the breakthrough at Sacsayhuaman. In 2023, spectroscopic analysis revealed mineral alterations on stone surfaces, patterns suggesting controlled heat treatment or chemical modification. The evidence indicates these blocks may have been softened before final shaping. No Inca kilns exist to explain this, no industrial furnaces, no archaeological evidence of massive fire applications, yet the stones preserve the evidence. Deliberate, controlled processes we cannot duplicate, applied specifically to the most intricate cutting work. Now, artificial intelligence has joined the investigation. By feeding data from thousands of sites into neural network systems, researchers have identified architectural signatures invisible to human observation. Temple alignments calibrated to solstices with sub-degree precision. Wall constructions following golden ratio mathematics. Geometric patterns that echo the mathematical principles underlying music itself. These weren't coincidences or artistic preferences. They represented the systematic application of a standardized knowledge system, shared, refined, and perfected across generations. Evidence by evidence, the illusion of primitive construction continues to collapse. Drone technology now surveys hidden mountain ridges. Ground-penetrating radar explores beneath Cusco's modern streets. LiDAR unveils entire valleys once considered archaeologically barren. With each discovery, a clearer picture emerges of a civilization that engineered not merely with physical strength, but with profound understanding, integrating science, mathematics, and natural harmony into achievements we can barely comprehend. They left behind no libraries, no written chronicles, no armies of conquest. Only stone remains. Stones that bend under extreme heat without fracturing. Stones that resonate when struck. Stones that lock into position as if they possessed awareness. Stones that guard their secrets with millennial patience. This leaves us confronting the most haunting truth of all. Perhaps the greatest mystery of Machu Picchu isn't how it was constructed, but how humanity managed to forget that such construction was ever possible.